When I made the video on wounds that I called What the Friday, because it was a good little pun at the time, and I was like, it'll probably just be a one-off. I'm not going to find that many things that I really wanted to be good and that sounded good that aren't. Most things I look at, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to getting into here. Unfortunately, we have a second entry in this series, and that is Choose or Die, directed by Toby Meekins, who wrote it, apparently, with Simon Allen and Matthew James Wilkinson. It stars Eola Evans, Asa Butterfield, Eddie Marsan, and the voice of Robert Englund. And with some of those names, this is why it pains me to say that this was a What the Friday moment. Definitely. There's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of good people here. And somehow they still dropped the ball. The opening was strong. I was brought in by the concept. It could have been an episode of Black Mirror. It would have worked. But the concept drew me in, and the opening bit where we've got Hal sat there playing this text adventure game, which then is impacting the real life. He's disfiguring his family through what's going on in the game. And it's a great way to say, yeah, we have a possessed game here. Although the fact they called it Cursor with a triangle bracket in place of the O. Curse. You get it, right? And apparently, I think, if I remember rightly, that was originally going to be the title of the piece, but it was changed at some point. And I think if it had kept the original title, I might have been more inclined to go, oh no, let's put it that way. Choose or Die has something that draws me into it. Cursor, stylized in that way, would have probably made me less inclined, at the very least. Like I say, that opening section was interesting. It kept us watching. It kept me sat there going, okay, there's some potential here. It's not perfect, but let's see what happens. And then we get introduced to Kayla and Isaac. And I love Asa Butterfield. I think I said when I talked about Shuta Gatwa's casting as the Doctor, it's one of my favourites. It's very fun, and everyone in it is good, but I love Asa Butterfield in it. I enjoyed him as Mordred because I've recently been watching Merlin. I've also said, and yes, this is just one of those where there are exceptions like everything, but I've often said that it's a lot easier for a British person to do an American accent, at least passably, than the other way round. Asa Butterfield wants to be the exception to this rule. And I don't know, again, if it's that previous experience and it just doesn't feel right because I'm used to hearing Otis, not Isaac, if you will. But I've seen many English actors put on American accents when I know them as English actors, and it doesn't throw me. I just don't think it worked. I think the coaches or whatever that he was using just didn't do a good job. No one else seemed to have this problem, though. Maybe it's a problem with him. Like I say, not everyone can do it, unfortunately. But why was he cast if he couldn't do it? It might just be my ears. Please, someone tell me that I'm going crazy and it's just me. But we get them, and that's when it all starts to fall apart, really. If we'd have kept it maybe as a series of vignettes, almost like an anthology piece, I think it could have worked better. I think if we just had, that early section with Hal, then someone else, then maybe a little bit with them, but then someone else. Or maybe if they were like the overarching bit, the encompassing story that you have in anthology pieces. So we only check in with them every so often while they hunt down the people who created the game. What we got was kind of a mess. And that's why I'm not going to ignore this, but I can't talk about it in it was kind of terrible way, but I guess that's fine. And I couldn't say it's good. So I was like, I have WTF, I have What the Friday. And there's just so much here that could have been better. We have moments of Kayla's mum is trapped in their home with seemingly a giant rat, and Kayla's telling the rat to go in different rooms and then trying to tell her mum to go into different rooms so she can get out, but her mum's like, no, I can't, I'm too scared, and ended up like, you're going to have to jump out the window. She goes to the place, and there's like written on the door, chew, because that was the instruction, chew through the door. There's meat scrawled on the wall. I'm like, did this rat scratch that stuff into the wall on the door? Did someone else come in and do it later? Is this part of the weird curse, like it's controlling this, but surely the rat didn't read the instructions. Like, how is the rat being controlled? I mean, yeah, if you think about anything too much, you are going to find holes, but the fact that I was more focused on the holes than the plot, and I think one of the funniest moments in the entire piece, and if you've seen this, you know exactly probably what I'm going to say. Asa Butterfield spews up videotape and then ingurgitates it. I guess regurgitate, I don't know. It comes back in, basically, which is very wrong, and it's meant to obviously be horrific, but it's just funny. Something about it just made me laugh. It wasn't making me go, oh, that's horrible. I mean, yeah, the edges of tape are sharp, or maybe it's meant to be like we're seeing tape, but it's actually his intestines, technically, or something. I don't know. It's still horrific if you actually think about it properly and get the horror that they were going for. However, like I say, it's just funny to watch. And the waste of so much of this talent. Like I say, accent aside, Asa Butterfield's a good actor. He's a fun guy. I like him. Eddie Marsan is a great, I hate to use the term character actor because anyone who is acting is playing a character. I prefer the term journeyman actor, where he does a lot of roles here and there. You may not know him like consciously, you may not know who he is, he's not an A-lister necessarily, but you've seen his face. He's that to me. He's a great journeyman actor, and I like him. The voice of Robert Englund, I mean, come on, Freddy Krueger himself has a part in this. That was a good chunk of what I was like, let's give this a go. And he's just wasted as basically a cameo as himself doing the voice of the game. Like, the people who made the game signed Robert Englund up to do the voice for the game, basically. Okay, you had Freddy Krueger. You had a supernatural thing. You could have done something better. Choose or Die was a mess. I mean, there was a moment at the end that I enjoyed where Caleb and Hal are sat over the table and they're talking about, you know, he's saying, oh, the 80s were great, all the great action heroes, and she's like,
fuck the 80s. Fuck the 80s!
And that was fun. I enjoyed that moment. But that was about it. The opening and a moment where they're kind of saying, look, stop deifying the 80s. The fight at the end was... It could have been over in, like, seconds. Like, it could have been over really, really quickly. But they dragged it out because they had to pad a runtime. Because it's one of those where if you hurt yourself, the other person feels it. It's one of those scenarios. So as soon as that was realised, just go for your throat. Stab yourself repeatedly until you see the other person down. Then stop, because you don't know if they're actually gone yet. And you don't want to injure yourself if the curse is lifted. But no, they drag it out. There's guns involved and this long drawn-out thing into the garden, and she drowns herself, but obviously drowns him. And again, there's elements of this scene I liked. The moment of him just blubbing up water just made me laugh. So yeah, Choose or Die had so much potential. As far as I can recall, this isn't Toby Meighan's like massive history of doing films like this. This is one of his first, if not the first, feature. And hopefully, like, it was shot well. There wasn't anything that made me go, that's terribly shot. So I think maybe more gigs might be good. If this would have been a short, maybe, or, like I said before, an anthology, that could have been good. So I'm not going to say this guy has no talent, this guy has no skill. There's a lot of people here who clearly have talent, have skill. Set dressing was really good. Things like that. There are people here who cared about this project. And I don't like slapping down things when people have got some talent and some passion. I hate that as a creator myself. It's horrible to put something out in the world and someone say that's just terrible and not be happy. I get it. But at the end of the day, you're putting it out there for an audience, and if the audience don't like it, you didn't succeed. So I get it. But this didn't succeed. It didn't hurt as much as Wounds, but that's a pretty low bar. So you've got to be really, really terrible for that. But I still don't think I would recommend this to anyone, even as a hate watch. Like, The Room is fun to watch. There's a lot of films out there that are terrible, but they're fun to watch. This lacked the fun to watch. By about halfway through, I'm like, well, I'm committed. I'm going to finish it. We made that judgment call. It's like, maybe it'll pick up at the end. I don't know. But yeah, do yourself a favour. Don't watch this. It's not worth your time. But don't think that this is the end for these people. I think these people, practically everyone involved, can do much better work, and I want to see it. If the second entry's terrible, then fine. But until then, I'm reserving judgment a little on some of this. But yeah, don't watch it. Take my word for it. You're not missing out. If you've watched this, even with the spoiler warning, you've probably got more enjoyment than watching the film. And that's saying a lot. But thank you very much for allowing me to talk about this. Hopefully there won't be 2 more WTFs in the future. It hurts. But thank you very much for watching. And as always, until next time, take care.